you want to know how a second generation Dowser is challenging orthodox history around megalithic sites such as Stonehenge? Well, look no further than this year's Awakening UFO and Conscious Life Expo. This exclusive interview with Maria Wheatley is a very special part of our ongoing coverage of the Awakening UFO and Conscious Life Expo in Blackpool. We are working in affiliation with Zohar Entertainment and Gaia. Gaia is your streaming network of all things consciousness. It's really a vast database of metaphysical knowledge. You don't want to miss it. If you want to subscribe to Gaia, please use the link below. And you don't want to miss the Awakening UFO and Conscious Life Expo. So there's details as to how to book your tickets in the description box below as well. Use ticketquarter.co.uk or just go onto Facebook and type in Awakening Expo and all the information will pop up there. I'm Kristen Gillespie, your conscious investigative reporter, and Maria Wheatley, it is such an honor to have you with us today. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. You're a Druid astrologer as well as a world-renowned dowser. I hear you've located most of the lost megalithic features at Stonehenge. Can you tell me the latest of your groundbreaking discoveries?
Well, really, I've found some very unusual skeletons around Stonehenge, from one that sounds very out of this world and akin to, for example, Lloyd Pye's Star Child. I've located that and I'm going to give that a really good description. And also I'm known for discovering the elongated skulls of Stonehenge and elsewhere. But when I wrote my first book, I only had the skulls. Now I've got the body measurements and their whole height, their whole kind of for how the body is structured is so different to ours. It's out of proportion and they look out of this world. I have used all of the data from anthropologists from Oxford. So this is undeniable and unprecedented, and it's going to be a world first and exclusive at Blackpool.
We love exclusives. So you're going to learn something that nobody has ever heard before here from a world-renowned dowser. Maria, can you talk me through your process? How do you get this information?
It's difficult, for one. It really is, and that's such a good question, because it's very, very difficult. Fortunately, I studied at Oxford for 3 years with archaeologist Lisa Brown, which gave me access to certain libraries and certain departments, if you will. So before, the dreaded lockdown, or whatever you want to call it, I just literally put loads of information on memory sticks and then went through that, and this is how I've made these types of discoveries. And also I'm very fortunate where I live. I live quite close to the very large National Monuments Record Office, and I have certain friends in there and colleagues. So I also use a vast national database as well. And if you kind of know how to work the system, so to speak, it makes it easy. If not, it's just like walking through treacle trying to get data.
I can only imagine. What kind of roadblocks have you come up against in terms of pushback from the powers that were?
Well, for a start, I was initially allowed rather to go and see certain skulls. Now, it's very difficult anyway to have permission to have access to human remains. That's the first, and that's not just me, for everybody. Okay, you have to have a good reason, and it's even harder in America if it's First Nation people. Just what I mean. So that's difficult by itself. So you have to have a good reason. It's not like I want to see a skull for the sake of seeing it. You have to say, I'm doing a paper or I'm doing this research, and preferably not from the private author point of view, but what would be classed as good research. So that's one standpoint alone. It's because the human remains makes it especially difficult. But that said, it makes it even more sacred and honorable, because when I do see these people from the past, and especially what I call the Neolithic High Queen that I discovered, she was a very influential person, a High Queen or High Priestess. To be around this long-skulled woman of 5,500 years old, it was an honor. So, and I really did feel a very deep metaphysical connection to her, because when I placed my hands over her throat chakra, I promised to tell her story. Then I lifted my hand to her third eye, and maybe I felt some energy, I truly believe. Then over the back of her head, it felt like she had two crown chakras. There was two pulses of energy. So I feel very honored and privileged to have these physical, but more importantly, metaphysical links to the distant past to tell their story that has been repressed.
I love how you're turning old conventional paradigms on their head and challenging our current belief systems, because that's really what it takes to achieve the expansion of consciousness that so many of us on the spiritual journey want to see, want to be a part of. Obviously, you really honor the process and the spiritual journey or the spiritual nature of what you do. What's been your most profound experience to date?
My most profound experience to date was really when I was in a collaboration with a radio show in America, and we were beaming out certain frequencies, the 432 hertz, they're like a heart chakra hertz, a high energy hertz frequency. And I was doing that from Stonehenge, and everybody else was on receiving mode with their radio gadgets, as it were. So I was pushing out a message, they were receiving to see what would come back. And we got what we think was the sound and the singing of the Stonehenge stones. So that was not decoded by me. I couldn't decode a frequency, but that's what the team deduced. So we think Stonehenge was trying to communicate to us through radio frequencies. And that was very recently, just in February and March. So that was a profound moment to think that the stones were reaching out, because there was definitely a reverberation coming from the stones themselves.
Wow, that is truly incredible. This is blowing my mind, and I'm so grateful that you're giving us exclusives, for this event, because it is so important for all of us like-minded souls to come together, because it amplifies our consciousness even more and our intent. I know you also do a lot of work with numerous types of earth energies in Egypt. Can you go into that a little bit? Are we going to cover that in the presentation as well?
Yes, I'm going to touch about that on the presentation, because lots of places in England, France, Scotland, and Wales, they've all been quite thoroughly mapped for earth energies, and books have been written. In fact, I knew the original authors that penned the books on earth energies and ley lines back in the 80s, who've endorsed my work and forwarded some of my books. I go back a long way with Dowser and with some very top authors. But I realized that kind of Egypt had been left out, and the only thing that's really been mapped to Egypt are ley lines and grid lines. Apart from that, they're the earth currents, the earth voltages, all the different forms of what's called geodetic energies were left out. So that's where I come in. I realized that I could decode it on a very vast, more in-depth level to really have a look at how Egypt used the earth energies. For example, the Osiris is, which is at the back of Abydos in Egypt, is located on one of the most powerful earth energy patterns that can be found and neutralized, and that was little known. So I go beyond the pyramids and I look at different temples of the New and Middle Kingdom to try to really understand what the ancient Egyptians were doing with Gaia's conscious and sentient earth energies.
Sentient, it's my favorite word. I made a whole documentary about sentience. Brilliant. And it's all living, isn't it? It's all has a sentience of its own.
Yes. Now, one of my specialities is with dowsing, and what I'm known for is the very deep waters of the earth that are born within Gaia and independent of rainfall. It used to be called primary water. To give Gaia back her power, I call it Yin Water. So this very, very deep water produced by the earth herself can produce these exotic spiral patterns. And the ancients were looking for that pattern. Now, where as well you get this kind of living water that runs through the earth, that creates rivers, but not of the kind of groundwater, the rainwater that is what that we know of that fills up the aquifers and the underground streams. So I look into this very kind of special water. We've measured it. It has a healing frequency. But you were mentioning, you know, you did a whole documentary about being, you know, the word sentient and consciousness. Well done. And so I look into that as being the Earth's Akashic record of place, because water has memory. So I kind of work with these energies on a metaphysical level as well and add depth to it. So if I take groups somewhere, we can tap into the Akashic record of place if it has this very special sentient yin water present.
Sentient water, and water is like a tape recorder, I've found in my research, just as you said. Are we going to get a sneak peek at how you douse in terms of tools?
Well, I'm going to be taking some tools of my trade, so to speak, to Blackpool. I'm also going to take dowsing rods and give demos, and I'll be able to show you how to douse auras and artifacts. I'm going to be bringing some Bronze Age artifacts from Stonehenge as well. So I'm going to be showing the guests some really wonderful artifacts. And I'm also going to be showing Egyptian pendulum dowsing, because I'm one of the very few in the United Kingdom that was shown the European method of Egyptian pendulum dowsing. And again, if you look to the kind of depictions on temple walls throughout ancient Egypt, they're holding these energy devices. And I'm going to be bringing some of these pendulums, I'd rather call them energy devices, to Blackpool as well, and showing how they can, they're believed to emit all of the colors of the sun, plus other unseen colors. And two different types of pendulum I should be bringing, the Isis pendulum and the Karnak pendulum as well. And they were found, the Karnak pendulum especially, are on the heart, or the heart chakra, in the Valley of the Kings. So one came from the Valley of the Kings, this energy device, and the other one was depicted throughout the Middle and New Kingdom. So yes, I'm going to be bringing a variety of things and showing people from Egyptian pendulum dowsing to good old-fashioned English dowsing.
Wow, energy devices, rods, pendulums, dowsing demos, and even artifacts. Wow, this is going to be incredible, Maria Wheatley. I cannot wait to experience your presentation, because it sounds like it's going to be more than just a lecture or a talk. Where can people find you and your work?
Yes, I've got two websites. My main website is the averyexperience.co.uk. It's got lots of articles on there that I'm sure viewers will love. And then my teaching platform, because I teach all of this online in Zoom groups and one-to-one, is it's simply esotericcollege.com.
Esotericcollege.com. Brilliant. I'm going to check it out myself. I suggest everyone else does as well. Thank you so much, Maria Wheatley. I will see you at the Awakening UFO and Conscious Life Expo in Blackpool. I'm Kristen Gillespie, your conscious investigative reporter, and I'm in humble service to humanity and all sentient beings. Thank you, Maria. We'll see you at the event.